Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome with C.O.D.Y. As usual, I'm your host, C.O.D.Y, and today we're wrapping up June's theme of awesome fantasy movies. So today we're talking about Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, the video game adaptation of a game by the same name, released way back in the year 2010. So the big thing with this one, well, let's go over made it real quick before I go into the movie. I'm not going to go crazy detail in the movie because you don't need to. So the movie was directed by Mike Newell. Mike Newell has done a few things. Some of my directing wise, he's done a handful of pretty good stuff. He's produced a lot of good stuff. One of my favorite movies, High Fidelity, he executive produced. Television wise, he's done where was it? In the 80s. No. 90s. 90s, yeah, 90s, I don't know, 80s. He did a couple episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So he's done a lot of that stuff. You know, whatever. Movie wise, way back in 1980, he did The Awakening. He's done Into the West, Four Weddings and a Funeral, the original 1994, not the remake of it. He also directed Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which I just recently rewatched after finishing the book. Love in the Time of Cholera, he did in 2007. Yep. And then Great Expectations in 2012, and then something 2018 called the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pile Society, whatever the hell that thing is. But yeah, he did that. So that's Michael Newell. Michael. Yeah, that's who directed it. The movie was actually written by the creator of the Prince of Persia video game, both the original back in the 80s, whenever that thing came out, 89? Yeah, 89. Then he released, he was the one that helped create the Prince of Persia Sands of Time video game in 2003 that was released on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox via Ubisoft, which then turned into a fairly large franchise, which is pretty cool. He's done some other stuff too, other video games that he's done. Well, I should say he did the Prince of Persia in 1989. He did the sequel, Prince of Persia 2, The Shadow of the Flame in 1993. Then something called The Last Express, which I don't know what that is. Never heard of it. And then he did Prince of Persia Sands of Time in 2003. And in 2012, released something on the Xbox 360, which was based on his original game from 1984, which is Karateka, I guess, which is like a karate game. I don't remember it on the 360, but it exists, so there it is. So yeah, that's Jordan Mechner, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I forgot to say that a minute ago. Yeah, that's the guy. He created Sands of Time, and he also wrote the screenplay. So there you go. Starring in the movie, you have a handful of well-known people. Main lead as the main character, Dastan, is Jake Gyllenhaal. William Foster played young Dastan, which I learned later is apparently he's a well-known parkour person from back in the day when he was younger. I don't know. I don't know who he is, so it doesn't matter. Then you have Jim Arrington, played Tamina, the Princess of Amulet, who's the female lead love interest in a way. Well, I mean, not in a way, love interest. Then you have Ben Kingsley, who plays Prince Nazim of Persia, who is the brother of the king of Persia, which I'll get to in a minute. You have Alfred Molina, plays Sheikh Amar. You have Richard Coyle, who plays Prince Tuss of Persia. who is the eldest brother to Dastan. Then you have Toby Cabal, plays Prince Garziv. I can't talk, apparently. Prince Garziv of Persia, who is the middle brother to Dastan. And that's about really all the known named people in it, as far as I know. A couple other familiar faces, but nothing I could really pinpoint. Yeah. That's about it. Did I say the king? Did I? I did not say the king's name. Oh, yeah, I did. Ronald Pickup. I said his name. Right? Didn't I? Ronald Pickup played King Shahraman. So yeah, that's the cast. There you go. That's who's in it. So for those who didn't play the video game, let me break down what it's about. So Prince of Persia, they took some differences, some cool elements from the video game, put it in there. The main thing is it's very Aladdin-ish in a way and very Prince and the Pauper in a way. So Prince Dastan was not born a prince. He was adopted by the king when he witnessed his selflessness and courage facing down some guards that were going to harm a child. And then he's like, well, I'm going to take him in because I believe he's special. Little did he know later he would save his life and his brother's lives and expose the evil. Anyhow, so the main story starts off, again, 2,500 years ago in Persia, the Persian Empire, when Dastan was a young man. Then he adopts him. We jump 15 years into the future where Dastan, alongside his non-biological brothers, Tus and Garziv, are basically on their way to the holy city of Amumet because of the fact that they're supposed to be forging weapons for the enemies of the Persian Empire. So, the video game, again, it doesn't have to do too much with it. The basis about it is there's a dagger that Dastan has that when he presses the jeweled hilt, the end of it, sands of time will run and allows him to reverse time for a certain amount of time, but only as long as the sand lasts. In the video game, the sand replenishes itself over time, but you upgrade it so it lasts longer, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I played the video game. So the biggest difference, I mean, obviously the video game story isn't as precise and in depth. I can't remember. It's been forever since I played it, but the whole story of this is Dastan goes with his brothers. To stop a brutal battle, he sneaks in with his group of miscreants, and they open the gates, allowing the armies to come in and essentially stops a giant bloody war. Some people die, obviously, but not nearly as many as there would have been if he didn't get the gates open. They take the city. They are confronted by the princess of Amulet, who is Tamina. She says they don't have weapons or forges there. They're being told by their uncle, played by Ben Kingsley, Nazim, that there is, and they're lying, and they will find it. Well, the king is then assassinated, and the blame is put on Dastan, who is then has a bounty on his head, and Tus, who's now the new king, sends his other brother, Garziv, after him to bring him back for justice of killing their father, who they think is, I can't believe after all this time of what he did for you, you killed him because he brought you out of the streets, he raised you as his own, he treated you as just as good as his actual kids, and then you kill him. Well, Dastan didn't do it. Spoiler alert. He was framed. So he escapes with Tamina, They go on the run. They run into Alfred Molina's character, Sheik Amar, and his bodyguard companion, whose name is Ahsoka or Sesso. No, Sesso. Sesso? Hold, please. Hold, please. Boo. Yeah, Sesso. Is that who he was? I can't remember now. It doesn't matter. So then from there, they have to find a way to prove that he's innocent. He's going to use the dagger and the sands of time to prove it. Then he gets the idea that he's going to use the sands of time to reverse it back before any of it happened, before they took the city. And then that he would stop it there. I mean, they could have actually gone before he did it, but they needed to prove to he needed to stop it at a certain time, and it just made more sense when they're already in the city because he could prove it that way. It doesn't matter. So he travels with Tamina to go to this place where they're supposed to go there. They get attacked by assassins. His middle brother is killed. He then goes back to prove it to his older brother, who's then assassinated by Ben Kingsley character. Spoiler alert. When he then takes the dagger, goes into the sands of time, and his plan is he knows the knife, the dagger, he's going to use that to go back before he made the mistake of saving his brother, who then became king, so he can become king, and then all the other stuff will fade away, because if Shahraman isn't saved when he's little from a tiger attack, I believe it was, then Ben Kingsley's character Nazim then becomes the king, and then he will then rule over all of the Persian Empire, and that's what he wants. So Dastan has to stop him. He does that. Gets back. He's the only one that actually knows what's happening, because he's the one that was holding the dagger. He's to close the hilt, blah blah blah, turn this time thing off. He then explains to his brothers that Nazim is the one that's been is causing all this. There actually is no weapon or forge going on there. So then they get in a fight. Nazim tries to kill him, showing his true colors, and then boom, there you go. End of movie. So the elements I'm talking about from the video game are basically two things. One is the being able to rewind time. So when mistakes happen, you can rewind time back before it happens, so you can make a different choice. Like if you fall into a pit, rewind time. The cool element they took is the aesthetic of what happens when you press the dagger. These almost like lightning bolt-ish flames will creep up your body, looking like burning sand, and your body turns this charred color, and you get whooshed out of your current form, back through the sands of time as they whoosh around you, back into where you were when you let go of the dagger, like 30 seconds, a minute later. I think they said the most time the dagger can hold is a minute. I believe is what they said. Then you have the ability to then stop what's going on. So again, the elements from the game were that the look of the body being ripped through time and have that element to it, which they use later in the game in a sequel to the games, where your body was like being torn apart by it or lost in time. I can't remember what it was, but you have that like burning sand flame thing coming up your arm, and it's a pretty cool element. They had the assassins, who were the main villain or main bad guys, bosses in the video games, if I'm not mistaken, were again the bosses in this one that he had to defeat. And they have different abilities: whips and swords and boomerangs and explosions and dart thingies and all sorts of fun stuff. And the main bad guy had a snake that he could use to throw at you, and he had daggers, right? He's the one that had daggers. The one guy had the little fist with the shooty needle things in it. But yeah, so that's the that, and then of course the element of the game itself is the traversal and parkour, and they use that a couple times for Dastan to escape captive as well as run away from his brother, who he doesn't want to hurt, but needs them to believe that he isn't the guy who murdered their dad. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode of The Awesome C.O.D.Y. Again, we were talking about Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time from 2010, wrapping up June's theme of awesome fantasy movies. And yeah, that'll be it. Short and sweet. Not a whole lot to go. I gave you the bullet points of the movie. If you want to watch it, I watched it on Stars, I believe, but it's going to be on Disney Plus soonish. I believe I saw. I can't remember what it was, but doesn't really matter. I think it's actually one of the best adaptations of a video game that you can have, because you have a lot of elements and it feels the same way and blah blah blah. It's just the good time to be had. It's just a fun movie. There's got a lot of humor in it. Very dark. It's actually a lot more violent than I remember it being. It's been a while since I watched it. A lot more on-screen death and blood than I remember. I remember a PG-13, right? It's not R. I know that much. It's not PG. It's got to be PG-13. I don't see it listed here, but I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. But there's a lot of on-screen death. Like, both his brothers die on-screen violently. Then assassins, a couple of them die on-screen with, like, knives and stuff stuck in them. Like, it's pretty crazy. But, not a whole lot of gratuitous blood in it. There's no, like, spilling of organs and stuff like that. It's just, like, a blade going in people. But even his best friend, like, dies pretty brutally, too. But, yeah. Boom, there you go. That's Prince of Persia. Check it out and enjoy all of that, I guess, really. Tune in next month when I don't have an idea what my theme's going to be. So show up next week for the month of July when I have another theme, which I don't know what it is yet. I think it's me book of some sort. I was thinking Harry Potter, but I haven't finished all of them yet. I've been slacking. Plus, there's like 7 books, 8 movies, and that just seems like, how am I going to cram that in there? But I was thinking about doing Harry Potter, but doing like 2 months worth of it, so break up the movies. So I'll talk about the books and the movies the same once. Then I thought, I could do a whole month of just one book in the movies. But then I don't know if I record it in a bunch and cut it up or what it is. I don't know. I want to do a Harry Potter series of episodes because I'm really deep into the Harry Potter books since I've never read them before and I started reading them. They're really good. And I always love the movies. So tune in next month, which most likely will probably be something to do with a book of some sort. I don't know if it's Harry Potter yet. I've made up my mind. But that's it for this week's episode, everybody. As usual, I'm your host, C.O.D.Y. And like I always say at the end of all these episodes, let's be awesome.